We begin our adventure in Raffles' famous long bar, where we decide a plan of action over a Singapore sling. We explore the sights of Singapore from our comfortable base at the Fullerton Hotel, which is conveniently located on Boat Quay near the Kavanagh Bridge. We climb aboard the cable car for a scenic trip to Sentosa Island, where ships waiting to dock line the horizon. The famous walk-through tube under the Sentosa Aquarium is an amazing experience. The visit ends with a dolphin show. Then we make our way back on another cable car. We must now say goodbye to Singapore as we head for the Bay of Islands on New Zealand's North Island. From our vantage point above the town of Pier, we can look across to Russell, the old town that was once the capital of New Zealand. We boarded a ferry to Russell and then climbed to the top of Flagstaff Hill. This flagstaff was raised by the British, but chopped down on several occasions by the Maori as a protest. The beautifully preserved town of Russell has a pretty little church and a maritime museum housing a 1/5 scale replica of Captain Cook's ship the Endeavour. We head off towards Kawakawa before visiting some local waterfalls. And then being seen off by an angry cockerel. I just can't resist an old railway train, even if it is diesel. Sadly, the old Packet steam engine wasn't running today. We then head on to the Coromandel Peninsula. Our base for the next 2 nights is Poet's Corner, a beautiful lodge overlooking Wahai Beach. Close by is Hot Water Beach, where if you dig a hole in the sand you can produce your own jacuzzi, fed from hot water springs just below the surface. The local shop will even hire you a spade to do the job. On the subject of digging, Martha's gold mine at Wahai is the biggest hole I've ever seen. Apparently only 12 grams of gold is extracted from every ton of spoil removed. This huge caterpillar grader looks like a dinky toy making its way out of the excavation. Everything about this place is on a massive scale. Do you think they just struck gold? As we leave the Coromandel heading for Rotorua, we have to plough through some floodwater. Our first stop is the Agrodome to see the celebrated sheep show. As well as sheep, they're breeding alpacas for wool. It's amazing, I know, but wherever I go, I seem to find a steam engine. Here at the Lady Knox Geyser, A ranger is adding bars of soap, which apparently is what happened years ago when convicts used to bring their clothes to wash in the hot water springs, and they accidentally dropped soap into what's now known as the Lady Knocks, causing her to violently erupt. As you can imagine, this scared the bejeepers out of them, and it took them some time to recover their garments which had been scattered. Volcanic activity deep below the Earth's crust has caused these evil-smelling pools to form. The water is between 60 and 80 degrees centigrade, and various chemicals released from the rock cause these strange colours to form. There is something quite sinister about these bubbling mud pools. Energy just seems to be oozing from the ground everywhere. Some of this energy is captured at the nearby geothermal power station. Although totally natural, this place has a spooky science fiction feel about it. We then watch the jet boats speeding their way towards Hookah Falls. It's time to move on. Leaving North Island, we arrive in Blenheim on the north coast of the South Island. We then carry on to Christchurch, where we catch the gondola up the mountain overlooking Lyttelton Harbour. Sadly, much of this area has now been devastated by the recent earthquake. In the distance you can see the Lyttelton time ball station. Again, sadly, this has been almost completely destroyed by the earthquake. We now board the Transalpine Express through Arthur's Pass to Greymouth, and then make our way to the Franz Josef Glacier. It's difficult to imagine that this vast river of ice is gradually inching down the mountain. When the freezing glacier runoff meets the relatively warm water of the lowland river, it steams as if boiling. Unfortunately, the weather was not so good at the Foxes Glacier. For some bizarre reason, At Bruce Bay, tourists write messages on stones and leave them among the driftwood on the beach. It was teeming with rain as we drove through Haas Pass, so much so that it caused landslides that closed the road later that day. Beyond the pass, we arrived at Lake Wanaka in beautiful sunshine. Between Wanaka and Queenstown is the oldest pub in New Zealand. This bridge just outside Queenstown is the home of bungee jumping, where this bizarre sport first began. For a mere $180 a go, you can leap off this bridge with your feet tied to an elastic band. Naturally, Pri was eager to try. Assuming you survive, recovery from this fast-running water is by a small rubber boat. Not everybody is convinced that this is a good idea. I wonder if he gets his money back. With all 4 feet firmly on the ground, these sheep are queuing for a haircut. Here on the road to Milford Sound, it's easy to see why the Maori people called New Zealand the land of the long white cloud. Mirror Lake beautifully reflects the surrounding mountains. Mitre Peak is invariably shrouded in cloud. The beautiful scenery in Milford Sound can only be seen from a boat. On the way back we saw this cheeky Kia bird who's just looking for mischief. He would deliberately destroy anything he finds, from hiking boots to car windscreen wipers. The Kia has most beautiful feathers, but his long hooked beak can do untold damage. These cormorants seem far better behaved, unless of course you're a fisherman. Sadly, the dear old Kingston Flyer has been mothballed. She's waiting for some kind entrepreneur to come and get her back into commission. Everything still appears to be in working order. She just needs a lick of paint and a drop of oil here and there. As one last treat for this sad old steam enthusiast, we board the Earnslaw for a trip across the lake to Walters Peak Farm. TSS Earnslaw was launched in 1912 and her original engines still plough across the lake. For anyone sad enough to need to know, she is powered by a triple expansion steam engine, which means the steam is used 3 times in progressively larger cylinders as the pressure reduces. Spent steam is then condensed and returned to the boiler via a small steam pump. It will never cease to amaze me how a few shovels of coal will propel this dear old ship at over 10 knots. Just to remind us that Queenstown is the adrenaline capital of the world, we took one last look at the jet boats. And then to our amazement watched this 13-year-old boy bungee jump. Apparently 13 is the youngest age you're allowed to jump, and his mother was standing in the crowd encouraging him. Personally, I'll take home memories of a more sedate activity.